I should have known something was wrong the moment Elena poured herself a glass of wine before I even sat down. It was our 10th anniversary, and I had gone all out. Reserved the rooftop table at Kalina's, arranged for a sitter, even picked up her favorite white lilies on the way home. But instead of getting ready, she was in sweats, barefoot, swirling Chardonnay like she'd had a long day at work. "Elena," I asked, setting the flowers on the kitchen counter. "You didn't forget, did you?" She gave me a faint smile. "Of course not. I just thought, maybe we'd stay in tonight." That wasn't like her. Elena lived for fine dining and curated moments. But I stayed quiet. Just nodded and went upstairs to check on Lila. She was out cold, her curls fanned across the pillow, hugging that one-eyed stuffed giraffe like always. I kissed her forehead, then went back down, gripping the envelope in my pocket. "Want to open your gift?" I asked. She laughed lightly. "Marcus, I didn't get you anything this year. Work's been crazy." "It's fine," I said, cutting her off. "Because I got you something. Or maybe it's more like a return." I reached into my pocket and pulled out the small stack of photos. Printed. Glossy. Clear. Her smile vanished when she saw them. Her hand hovered above the first one before she picked it up. "Elena." I paused, trying to breathe. "Do you know what today is?" She blinked at the photo of her with him. Her hand on his chest. His mouth on her neck. Her face tilted up like she belonged to him. "Where was this taken?" I asked, though I already knew. She didn't answer. "That's the Hilton Rooftop Bar. From the Stratagem Group's Spring Gala. You said it was a networking event." Her eyes flicked to me. "It was." "Then who the hell is this guy?" I asked. "And don't tell me it's a friend." She looked away. "It was just a kiss, Marcus." I exhaled hard through my nose. "A kiss?" "Yes." Her tone sharpened. "It was meaningless. A drunk moment. It didn't mean anything." "Then why are there 6 photos from 3 different angles?" I tossed the rest of the stack on the table. "Why are you gripping his tie like he's your husband?" "I didn't sleep with him," she snapped. "Oh, so it's not cheating if it doesn't involve a bed?" I pushed back from the table, hands trembling. "Emotional betrayal doesn't count?" "Marcus, please. You're overreacting." I stared at her, stunned. "Who is he?" She said nothing. Just stared down at the wine glass. "Elena." My voice dropped. "Tell me who he is." "I don't want to drag him into this," she muttered. "Oh, but dragging me through this is fine?" I stepped back, heading toward the hallway. "I'm done for tonight." "What are you doing?" She called after me. "Packing a bag," I said. "I need space." "Marcus," she hissed. "You can't just walk out. Lila's asleep upstairs. I won't wake her." I grabbed my keys. "But I'm not staying in this house tonight. Not with you." Her voice cracked behind me. "Please don't do this." But I was already out the door. Because I had to. Because if I stayed, I'd say something our daughter couldn't unhear. The motel smelled like wet carpet and microwave burritos. I didn't care. It was $29 a night, had a working lock, and was far enough outside Seattle that nobody would find me unless they really tried. I dropped my duffel on the bed and just stood there for a minute. The walls were yellowed, the curtains crooked. A family of spiders had set up shop in the corner. Perfect. It matched the mood. I lay down, shoes still on, and stared at the ceiling. I hadn't cried, not even when I left the house. But now, in the quiet, it hit different. Not tears exactly, just the sharp, aching stillness in my chest. Like a rib had been pulled out and left the rest of me off balance. Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Cassidy, group chat. "Hey Marcus. Just heard about the situation. We're here for both of you. Maybe we can talk." I stared at it for a minute. Then another one came in. "O&T. I know this is complicated. Let's meet. No pressure. We just want to support some healing." I blinked, confused at first, until I realized what was happening. Elena had told them. The same people who toasted us at dinner parties, the ones who smiled and called me solid, who acted like I was some dependable fixture in their curated, startup-scented lives, now they were forming a circle around her first. Before I even got a text from my own wife asking if I was okay, they were already managing the narrative. A third message popped up. "Cassidy again. We're planning a small get-together this weekend at my place. Safe space. Come if you feel ready." I tossed the phone on the dresser and stared at it. Safe space. What the hell did that even mean? By morning, the group chat had 23 messages. Half from people I barely knew, all full of words like compassion, misunderstanding, and growth. No one asked me what I had seen in those photos. No one asked what I felt. It was all tone policing and careful sentences designed to steer me toward forgiveness. I texted Cassidy back. Me. Not comfortable at your house. Steakhouse on 34th is neutral. Friday at 7. I'll listen, but I'm not interested in games. The reply came within minutes. Cassidy. Of course. Whatever makes you feel safe. Safe. That word again. But I wasn't looking for safety. I was looking for the truth, or at least someone willing to say it out loud. That night, I sat on the motel bed with a bag of takeout and scrolled through photos of Lila on my phone. Her toothy smile. Her wild hair. Her mismatched socks. I had to figure this out. Not for Elena. Not for the group. For my daughter. Because no matter how this ended, she deserved a dad who didn't let other people decide what was okay. I got there 10 minutes early. The steakhouse was dim, upscale without trying too hard, full of men in collared shirts who talked like they owned software companies. It was the kind of place I used to feel comfortable in before I realized how much of it was just performance. A hostess led me to the private room in the back. Long table, cloth napkins, soft jazz humming through the walls. The group had already arrived. Cassidy, Owen, Simone, Victor, even Bree, who once called me the most emotionally grounded guy in the room at a leadership retreat. They all looked up like I'd interrupted something delicate. Cassidy stood first. Marcus. Thanks for coming. I gave her a nod. No handshake. Owen motioned to an empty chair beside him. Sit. You hungry? I'm not here for the ribeye, I said, and pulled out a manila envelope. Simone shifted in her seat. Marcus. I laid the envelope on the table and slid out the contents. 6 photos, printed on thick paper. I handed one to each of them like it was a syllabus. The room went still. I want to know who he is, I said. Don't lie. Don't dance around it. No one spoke. Victor glanced at Cassidy, then at his plate. I turned to Bree. You said once you respected honesty above all else. So be honest. Who is he? More silence. They didn't look shocked. They looked rehearsed. Elena told us about the kiss, Owen said carefully, as if walking barefoot through glass. She admitted it was inappropriate. But she also said you two were already drifting. No, I snapped. You don't get to rewrite that part. I was buying her an anniversary gift. She was kissing another man. Cassidy spoke next. We don't want to take sides. You already did, I said. You knew what she did. And instead of encouraging her to tell the truth, you made me the last one to know. Simone looked uncomfortable. It wasn't our place to tell you. It sure as hell became your place when she started sleeping under the same roof as me, pretending nothing happened. Victor finally looked up. His mouth opened like he wanted to say something. Then he looked down again and took a long sip of water. That told me everything. You all knew, I said quietly. Every single one of you. Cassidy sighed. Marcus, this isn't about blame. It's about... No, I said. This is about loyalty. And I finally realized something tonight. You were never my friends. You were hers. You always were. I stood up. Enjoy your steak. Owen reached out like he wanted to stop me. Marcus. I looked him dead in the eye. If my daughter ever asks who stood by her father, it won't be any of you. Then I walked out, leaving the envelope on the table in a silence none of them dared break. I moved back in that Sunday. Not to reconcile, to reclaim my space. Lila needed stability, and I wasn't about to let Elena twist that house into some curated image of domestic peace while we were anything but. The first night back, I slept in the guest room. Locked the door. Didn't unpack. Just stared at the ceiling and listened to the familiar creaks in the floorboards. Every sound reminded me of what we used to be. What I thought we were. She knocked the next morning. Lightly. Like she was trying to pretend this was just a phase. Marcus. Her voice was low. Soft. Trained. Can we talk? Not now, I said, brushing past her in the hallway. I need coffee. She followed me into the kitchen anyway. I miss you, she said, standing barefoot by the fridge. I hate how things feel between us. I didn't answer. Just sipped from my mug and waited. I never meant for it to get this far, she went on. It wasn't a relationship. It was just a moment. A moment. I said, setting the mug down. You've refused to name him for over a week. That's not a moment, Elena. That's a cover-up. She crossed her arms, shifting gears. You don't understand what it's like being surrounded by people who see the world differently. People who what? Sleep with each other and call it empowerment. That shut her up. Just for a second. I'm not the only one keeping secrets, she said finally. You've shut down. You won't even look at me. I stepped closer. I look at you every day. And every day, I see someone I don't recognize. She looked down, jaw tight. I could see the spin starting in her head, like she was preparing for a boardroom pitch. Later that week, I got home from work early. The house was too quiet. I walked into the living room and nearly stopped breathing. They were all there. Cassidy on the couch. Victor beside her, legs crossed, pretending this wasn't the most awkward ambush in the world. Owen stood near the fireplace. Simone poured herbal tea into mismatched mugs like we were at some retreat. And in the middle of them, Elena, sitting tall, composed. Like this was normal. Marcus, she said with a practiced calm. Please sit. What the hell is this? Cassidy smiled like a therapist. Just a conversation. A chance for shared understanding. I didn't move. Victor cleared his throat. We wanted to introduce you to something we call open connectivity. I almost laughed. That what you're calling it now? It's not what you think, Simone said. It's about expanding the emotional capacity of partnership, letting go of ownership, creating space for multiple forms of connection. It's about growth, Owen added. Elena stood. I didn't know how to explain it to you, Marcus. I was afraid you'd shut down, that you'd think I was just stepping out. You were, I said flatly. You are. Victor stepped forward. We believe intimacy doesn't have to be exclusive. Emotional and sexual exploration fuels professional and personal alignment. It's not cheating. It's evolving. And what about Lila? I asked. Does she get to evolve with a revolving door of connections? Elena's face tensed. She won't know. This isn't about her. I took a deep breath, scanned their faces, and pulled my phone from my pocket. I turned on the voice memo app the second I walked in. I let it record as I nodded slowly. Fascinating, I said. Keep talking. They did. For another 20 minutes, they took turns pitching their twisted little philosophy, all dressed up in buzzwords and fake warmth. When it was over, I smiled. Thanks for the clarity, I said, sliding my phone back into my pocket. Now I know exactly who I'm dealing with. And I left them sitting there, sipping tea like they hadn't just blown up their own facade. They caught on faster than I thought. 2 nights after the ambush, I came home to find Elena waiting at the kitchen table. She wasn't wearing her usual soft apology face. This was something colder, businesslike. Let me see your phone, she said. I laughed, half sure she was joking. I'm serious, Marcus. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Why? Her hand tightened around her mug. Victor saw you record the meeting. You had your phone face down, screen still on. We know you have it. I said. They're my support system, she snapped. And you violated their trust. I shrugged. So what? You can violate your marriage, but I can't document it. She stood up, slowly. You have no idea how dangerous this game is. Elena, you're the one who brought a cult into our living room. Her voice cracked, just slightly. This isn't a cult. It's connection. You're the one who won't grow. Before I could say another word, she lunged for my phone. We wrestled for a second, not violently, but enough for me to feel the panic in her grip. I yanked it free and backed up. Get out of my face. I just want the recording, Marcus. She was calm again. Too calm. I opened the app, gone. Somehow, sometime between that night and now, someone had gotten into my phone. The audio file was erased. I checked my cloud backup. Empty. Elena, I said quietly. Did you go into my phone? She looked down at her hands. We thought it was best. You were escalating. That night, after she went upstairs, I didn't sleep. I sat in the guest room with my laptop and started researching spyware. By morning, I'd ordered a set of mini HD cameras, 2 audio bugs, and a home surveillance system with remote cloud sync. All untraceable. All legal, technically. 3 days later, while she was at a mastermind wellness dinner, I installed everything. 1 camera in the living room, 1 in the kitchen, a mic behind the bookshelf, another inside the hallway smoke detector. The guest room, my new sanctuary, became my safe zone. I changed the locks, installed a deadbolt, labeled everything. Then I called a private investigator. Joel Macklin, he said, voice rough like gravel. You Marcus. I need proof, I told him. Not of cheating, of coercion. I think my wife's part of a manipulative group. They've already deleted my recordings. There was a pause. What kind of group? The kind that doesn't believe in boundaries. The kind that wants to make me the crazy one. He didn't ask many more questions. Just set a time to meet and told me what gear he recommended. By the weekend, I had a full home surveillance grid syncing to an encrypted server Joel controlled. Every conversation, every visit, every time Elena or one of her friends brought up connection, it was logged. I wasn't just fighting for my dignity anymore. I was fighting for Lila. Because this wasn't about a kiss. Or even a marriage. It was about power. And I was done pretending they had any left. The first attempt came late on a Thursday. Elena knocked on the guest room door around midnight. I was still half awake, reviewing surveillance logs with Joel's latest notes when she came in, wearing one of the old silk robes I'd bought her during our trip to Napa, back when anniversaries meant something. "Can I sit?" she asked. I said nothing, just turned off the monitor and sat back in the chair. She walked in slowly, like she was gliding through fog. Her voice was soft, trained. "I've been thinking a lot about us. About everything that's happened." I waited. "You don't have to be afraid of what this is," she said. "It's not a threat to what we had. It's a chance to evolve, to deepen." I nearly laughed. "Elena," I said, "you cheated. Then brought your entire support group into our house to sell me a pitch. This isn't evolution. It's a rebrand for betrayal." She didn't flinch. "You still think this is about sex," she said. "It's not. It's about expanding our intimacy. Imagine how strong we could be if we embraced more than one channel of connection." She reached out, lightly touched my wrist. "It doesn't mean I don't love you," she whispered. "It just means I want more. For both of us." I stared at her hand, then looked her dead in the eyes. "I can't unsee what I saw. I can't unknow what you did. You've changed too," she said quickly, a slight edge creeping into her tone. "You're colder, more paranoid, closed off. You made me closed off," I snapped. "You built a wall and told me to thank you for it." For a second, I saw it, the crack in her mask, the exhaustion, the quiet flicker of someone who knew this wasn't going to work. But then it passed. She shifted back into control. That voice, steady, measured. "We can rebuild," she said. "We don't have to divorce." That word, divorce, hung in the air like smoke. "You're not signing the papers," I said. "Why?" "Because I don't believe this is the end," she said. "And deep down, I don't think you do either." I stood up, opened the door, and held it. "I already left you once," I said. "I just haven't moved out yet." She didn't move. "Elena, I will never love you the way I used to. And nothing you or your group says will change that." She nodded, slow and deliberate, then stepped past me into the hallway. Before she disappeared down the stairs, she looked over her shoulder and said, "You'll come around eventually." They all do. I shut the door behind her, locked it, and wrote another note in my legal journal. Refused seduction, reaffirmed divorce. Let her keep her philosophy. I was keeping my soul. Bernice Thorne looked like someone who ate courtroom lies for breakfast. Late 50s, gray bob, black blazer sharp enough to cut glass. Her handshake was firm, her tone direct. "You're not crazy," she said as soon as I finished explaining. "You're married to someone who joined a cult with good branding. But this isn't her spiritual awakening. It's leverage. And it's already in motion." We sat in her downtown office, sunlight slanting through the blinds. I'd just handed over Joel's first full report, surveillance transcripts, timeline of group visits, audio clips of Elena casually referencing open connectivity, with Lila just upstairs. Bernice flipped through the folder like it was a menu. "She'll stall. Delay the divorce with mediation requests. Use reconciliation as a tactic. Maybe even throw in co-parenting therapy to buy time." "Buy time for what?" I asked. "To wear you down," she said. "To blur the line between emotional abuse and acceptable eccentricity. She wants you exhausted by the time it hits court." I nodded. "I've seen it. She plays the long game." Bernice gave a wry smile. "Then it's time we do too." She had me start logging everything. Every conversation, every text. A shared calendar for drop-offs, dinner routines, and when Lila woke up from naps. If Elena said the sky was blue, I wrote it down. If she changed the subject during a boundary conversation, I recorded the redirection. Back at home, I kept my distance. Slept in the guest room, spoke only about Lila, meals, and school logistics. I spoke like a man filing incident reports, not having a marriage. The shift rattled Elena. "Why are you treating me like a tenant?" she asked one night. "Because tenants don't lie about where they've been," I said. "They don't invite support groups into homes without notice." "I'm still your wife," she said. "For now," I replied and walked away. That's when the sabotage started. One evening, I came home to find the guest room door slightly open. I'd left it locked that morning. My journal was moved. The charging cable for my backup phone had been unplugged. Nothing missing, but everything touched. I checked the locks. No signs of forced entry. No broken latch. Just the quiet knowing that someone had crossed into my space. That night, I changed the lock on the guest room. Deadbolt. Keyed. I moved all legal documents into a fireproof safe and shifted Joel's files to an encrypted flash drive I wore on a lanyard under my shirt. Then I installed a silent alarm on the door. Cheap hardware. Simple setup. It would chime to my phone if anyone entered while I was out. Elena didn't mention it, but she knew. I saw it in the way she walked past me, less confident now, more calculating. She was still trying to win, still hoping I'd eventually come around. But I wasn't the same man she ambushed in our living room. Now I had an attorney, a digital trail, and a reason to watch everything. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was strategy. It happened 4 days before the court hearing. I pulled into the driveway after picking up Lila from school. Her drawings were still swinging from her backpack, full of stick figures and crooked hearts. She ran inside ahead of me, yelling something about snack time. Elena was waiting at the kitchen table, not angry, not smug, just still, like she had already rehearsed this moment. "There's something you should know," she said quietly. I didn't sit. "A sheriff came by earlier," she continued. "They dropped off a notice." She slid the paper across the table like it was a takeout menu. I scanned the heading. Temporary Protective Order, King County Superior Court. Claiming aggressive behavior, verbal intimidation, and escalating threats during a domestic conflict. Filed by Elena Brandt. "You've got to be kidding me," I said. "It's just precautionary," she said too calmly. "I didn't want it to go this far, but you've been difficult." Difficult? I nearly laughed. "You've been recording my movements. You broke into my room. And now you're calling the cops on me." "It's temporary," she said again, like that made it less insane. "The judge will hear it next week. I told them you hadn't laid a hand on me, but that you've been unstable." My stomach turned. This wasn't just a move, it was strategy. A custody setup. A PR weapon. A legal grenade with Lila's name taped to it. "I'm still allowed at home for now," I said, eyes narrowing. "But if you can convince a judge I'm a threat, I lose access to my daughter." She didn't respond. "Did the group help you write it?" I asked. "Victor? Cassidy? Or was this your idea?" Her silence was answer enough. That night, I called Bernice. "She filed a restraining order," I said, pacing in the garage while Lila watched cartoons in the living room. "She says I threatened her." There was a pause on the line. Then Bernice spoke, steady and sharp. "Let her dig her hole," she said. "We have Joel's recordings. Surveillance. Logs. We'll show the judge the real story. Until then, don't so much as raise your voice in her direction. Stay icy." I nodded. "She's using this to bait me. She thinks I'll snap. She wants that courtroom moment," Bernice said. "Don't give it to her. Stay smart." After I hung up, I went back inside. Elena sat in the corner of the living room, watching Lila giggle at a cartoon hamster on TV. She smiled at our daughter. Not me. It was eerie how easily she moved between warmth and weaponry. "You filed a lie," I said under my breath, quiet enough that Lila couldn't hear. "You left me no choice," she whispered back. "I have it all recorded," I said. "Every meeting. Every word from your little group. The manipulation. The coercion." She blinked, just once. But I saw it, the crack. The fear. "You won't win," she said. "I don't need to," I said. "I just need the truth." Because I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was protecting Lila. And Elena had just declared war. The courtroom was cold, not temperature cold, just sterile. Walls too white. Lights too bright. Everyone quiet, like they were waiting for a sermon instead of a custody hearing. Elena sat 2 tables over with her lawyer, a young guy with perfect hair and zero expression. She wore a cream blazer, hair down, lips neutral pink. Like a mother fighting for her child, not a woman who had weaponized intimacy and then called it growth. I sat beside Bernice, calm on the outside, vibrating inside. Joel was behind us, 3 binders in hand, tie crooked but confidence locked in. This wasn't his first time unraveling a lie. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, scanned the room. "We're here to address the temporary restraining order and consider custody conditions in Brandt versus Brandt." Elena's lawyer stood first. Calm, polished. "Your Honor, my client has endured emotional volatility, intimidation, and aggressive surveillance tactics. We're seeking full custody of the child, Lila, and an extension of the protective order to ensure safety during this transition." I didn't react. Bernice barely blinked. "She has also prepared a statement," the lawyer added, handing a typed letter to the judge. The judge skimmed it. Her lips pressed together. I see. Mr. Brandt, your response. Bernice rose slowly. Your Honor, we intend to show that not only are these allegations exaggerated and malicious, they are part of a calculated effort to isolate our client from his daughter and cover up an ongoing pattern of emotional coercion by the plaintiff, aided by a group promoting non-consensual philosophical manipulation disguised as personal development. That turned a few heads. The judge raised an eyebrow. You're alleging cult behavior? Yes, Your Honor, Bernice said. And we have evidence. She motioned to Joel. He stepped forward and was sworn in. Then she brought out the recordings. We'd like to submit audio and video documentation, Bernice said, placing a flash drive into the courtroom laptop. All gathered within legal bounds, synced to timestamps, and backed by witness verification from a licensed investigator. The first clip played. Victor's voice, smooth and smug. We believe emotional exclusivity is a social constraint. Marcus needs to reframe his concept of ownership and partnership. Elena's voice followed. He's not ready yet, but we'll get him there. He's just used to control. We'll wear that down. The room went dead quiet. The judge leaned forward slightly. Next clip. Elena, on our back porch, whispering to Cassidy. If he records us again, we'll say he's unstable. That way we can make him look unfit. It'll keep him out of the way until he softens. The judge looked up. When was this recorded? 2 weeks before the restraining order, Your Honor, Joel replied. Date stamped. Synced to cloud. Unedited. Bernice stood again. We contend that this wasn't a plea for safety. It was a setup, designed to block custody, not protect a victim. The judge turned to Elena, her expression unreadable. Mrs. Brandt, do you have a response to these recordings? Elena's voice was small. Those were taken out of context. The judge didn't flinch. That's an awfully specific context, ma'am. By the time court recessed, the tide had turned. Elena's lawyer had gone pale. The group didn't show. Not a single member sat in support. Final ruling came at 2:47 p.m. Restraining order denied. Joint legal custody awarded, but primary physical custody granted to me. Elena's visitation, supervised, pending full psychological evaluation. Alimony? Denied, outside of minimum state requirement. The judge's final words were clear. This was not about co-parenting. This was about control. And Mr. Brandt protected his daughter from it. Outside the courthouse, Joel clapped me on the back. Bernice handed me a folder. You're free, she said. And for the first time in months, I believed her. 3 weeks later, I moved into a modest 2-bedroom rental north of the city. Nothing fancy. Just a quiet street, decent yard, and enough sunlight in the mornings to make Lila's cereal feel like an event. She helped pick out the curtains, pink, of course, with glittery stars that peeled off like stickers. Every morning now, she runs into my room just to tell me what the sun looks like through them. Freedom isn't always loud. Sometimes it just looks like a kid in mismatched socks watching cartoons while you make her pancakes from a box. Elena didn't call the day we moved out. Didn't wave. She just stood in the doorway with her arms crossed, like we were taking something that used to be hers. Maybe we were. Peace. Her friends, that inner circle of open thinkers and curated minds, disappeared fast after the courtroom fallout. Cassidy's group chat went quiet. Simone deleted her business Instagram. Victor deactivated his LinkedIn and scrubbed his company blog of anything that even hinted at shared dynamics. That was fine, because I wasn't done with them either. Bernice filed the lawsuit 2 weeks after the custody ruling. Brandt versus Stratagem Collective LLC. The charges? Psychological manipulation, coordinated defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, professional sabotage. We didn't file quietly. Bernice made sure every name, Elena's included, was listed. Not for revenge. For precedent. I had documentation of group meetings, texts where Cassidy advised Elena to target legal vulnerabilities, even a draft of an internal guide the group used to coach women through narrative reframing for exit readiness. Joel's jaw clenched when he read that one. They tried to settle privately, of course. First with money, then with fake apologies, then with veiled threats. None of it worked. 3 months later, we walked out with a 6-figure settlement and a sealed agreement that gave me full rights to any future use of our story, including the right to expose how they operated. But I left Elena's name off the public record. That was my decision. I didn't do it for her. I did it for Lila. Because one day, she'll Google her parents. She'll read things, see documents, maybe stumble across old articles about a lawsuit against some networking collective that crumbled under scrutiny. And when that day comes, I want her to know her father didn't burn the whole house down. Only the part that tried to burn us first. Elena called once, about a month after the case closed. I made a mistake, she said, her voice tight. I was lost. I didn't say anything. Just waited. I thought I was finding myself, she whispered. But I lost everything. You didn't lose everything, I said calmly. You still have joint custody. You still have your job. You still have the friends who didn't try to gaslight their spouses. I want to fix this, she said. I took a deep breath. You can be Lila's mom, I said. But you'll never be my wife again. Silence on the line. Then a quiet, okay, like she knew that was as much grace as she was going to get. Now, it's just me and my daughter. Soccer practice on Saturdays. Movie night on Fridays. She draws hearts for both of us now, not just her mom. And when I look at her, really look at her, I see the reason I didn't break. Because sometimes closure isn't an ending. It's a door that locks behind you, soft and final. And this time, I kept the key.